Hello, happy Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. I've actually tried to record this multiple times, and there's so many parts of this that I want to talk about, and I don't actually want to talk about anything for too long. So maybe I'll do a series on this, and it's about natural and artificial, and our choice to engage with either. How much are you engaged in the natural world? Do you know what the natural world is in comparison to the artificial one? How much do you value one versus, or I shouldn't even say versus one or the other? How much of your life is working with one or the other? I believe that intellect is a shadow level. Intellect is, I've gone to school, I've read a ton of books, I've learned from other human beings through their words, through their teachings. It's a very limited form of awareness because it's limited to the view of that which you are receiving. So we live in a society that has traditionally, and for very good reasons, we have modeled our society around education and it being the value system in which we plug humans into. A lot of people will use their education as a defense mechanism, or a way of exerting their, self-worth based on their experience, having gotten a master's degree or PhD or multiple PhDs and all of that. And so I think about that. And then I think about the people who have never entered the educational system at all. That they came out into this world and essentially started learning about the world through the land and the people that were surrounding them. And then I look at the ability of those two kinds of humans, and where their intelligence is developed and where when I say their natural intelligence, we come into this world with like a wonderful, beautiful, I'll call it program, or archetype, or collection of energies that want to be represented. But the second you go somewhere and you allow yourself to be told who you are, what you should do, how you are starting to break down your connection to your natural intelligence. And this is something that is going to be like what I believe is going to split our society. Is that there's going to be people who are going to value the artificial much more so over the natural. And that's okay. It's just like there's always going to be people who are going to stay focused on the light of things, and some are going to stay focused on the dark. Free will is an amazing thing. You can come in with an astrology chart that says all of this, and you can still do whatever you want. You have free will. So when we have free will to get to choose, do I want to choose that thought or that emotion right now or not? Do I want to choose this physical feeling right now or not? Do I want to choose that perspective someone is, putting on me or not? It's always actually a choice. So there is no space for people to say, this is the way the world is going. The world goes where you go. Wherever you go, these eyes are like a projection. Whatever's going on inside projects also out into the field. So just as an example, I'm a projector in human design. So when I sit in front of another human, and I do much better one-on-one with people than I do with big groups of people, because I'm very what we call open. I can pick up on things in lots of different ways. And the downside of that is we can lose ourselves and who I really am, separate from the rest in my collective field, Like what I'm feeling what I'm feeling, or am I feeling this because I was just, sitting next to someone who lost someone? And so a lot of discernment as a projector has had to come in for me over time to figure out what is really going on with me versus outside of me. And when I say that it is very difficult, it is difficult, especially when you make a career out of it. And so for me as an acupuncturist, I'd have one person sitting in front of me, and I have an ability apparently to very much pick up on the wounds of another human and start being able to point at the root of those wounds without knowing much. They don't have to say much, but even when they do say little, the words they choose to use guide me right there. Now, that, like, even in a system, let's call it like Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine has been around thousands of years. I believe anything that has been around for the longevity, probably because there's a natural intelligence involved. Because things that are natural have been here forever, as far as we are aware. It's the artificial stuff that comes and goes. And why does it tend to come and go? That's a good question for you to ask yourself. When we think about pharmaceuticals are a synthetic version of nature. That we will take a part of nature that we've learned does these things, and then we try to hyper-focus that thing for a one-size-fits-all, not taking into consideration that we are all a whole, but inside of that whole, we are all a different page, which means we all have different energies inside of the whole. When we are in our pure energy, can you imagine that natural intelligence just creating and supporting from itself? It like bringing the people right to it that it needs for the thing that it can't do because it's not great at it, but it's really good at this other thing. So it's like really starting to work at cooperation, cooperation. But what happens when we start turning to artificial forms of intelligence, which right now, when we just look at AI. Okay, so what is AI? Most of you don't know what it is, and you trust it just like you trust the cloud, just like you trust the internet, but you don't actually know what it is. And yet, I found it so funny as an acupuncturist practicing something that was around for thousands of years. You know how much skepticism came my way? It was voodoo, it was this, it was that. And I was like, wait, you do know the Western medicine is, you know what that's about, right? We have to be so discerning right now. And I don't mean discerning about, which biohack should I follow? Biohacking is another way we are trying to shortchange the experiment of being human. Being a human is an experiment. And we each are given a bunch of different energies to come in and be an experiment. What is it to feel joy? What is it to feel pain? What is it to feel sorrow? What is it to accomplish something? What is it to take something that wasn't here and bring it into existence? What is it to lose people that have been in your daily life every day and then they go away? What is it to be related to people via blood and ancestry versus people who are our chosen family? All the rules around that are made up by us. So what is going to be important is that you start following the rule book that you have created for yourself. And part of that is to ask yourself, how much are you willing to live in the artificial versus natural world? The further you go into one or the other is going to likely diminish the existence of the other in comparison. Why do I say that? As someone who has really chosen the natural. I have been choosing the natural for as long as I can, and that doesn't mean I don't eat processed food or I don't work with technology. I do. But wherever there's an option for me to choose one or the other, I'm almost always going to the natural. Why? Because there is an experience that I have with it that I do not have with artificial. When we, and again, everything I'm about to say is not about judgment. You are here to be your own experiment. I'm choosing mine. You have to choose yours. But when we do choose to turn completely to the artificial, meaning I'm going to now have AI decide my daily habits, my content, how to handle a personal situation with someone, have it write my book, there is a lack of soul with artificial intelligence. There is no soul there. It's why music that is very it's got a lot of synthesizing energy to it versus like natural embodiment that comes with it, where you are one with the music, is different than performing the music. Being one with the garden is different than going out and pulling things out of the garden. How do we become one with what we are, with ourselves, with each other, and with this world we are in right now? What are you choosing to create? Are you choosing to try to make your face look like this for as long as possible? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying there is a choice to do this, which, by the way, this looks much more alien-like if you haven't looked at the faces of aliens or robots. There's no wrinkles on robots, right? But do you know what's in the substances that are doing this? Because what a lot of Botox does is it's getting rid of your ability to feel, to have empathy. People are doing this all around the third eye. This is our intuition, one of our intuitive centers. This is where visions come. But people are actively injecting botulism to freeze their face and their expressions. So what happens is that person now walks out in the world and they're engaging with human beings, and human beings are having an experience of, is there someone in there? Why are they reacting that way? Do they not feel, and I'm having this experience with in my personal life in a big way. It's just watching how a lot of humans around me are choosing to respond or react, and the follow-up after that, and the lack of humanity in it. And that is the thing that I wanted to talk about today, and I'm emphatic about, you really starting to take responsibility for everything you think, everything you feel, everything you do, everything you believe. It does not make sense to me if you are someone who, for instance, is going to be all about, local businesses, and yet still purchase most of your products from Target, Costco, Amazon, from these big box places. These places that have a lack of humans, involved. Because if you haven't noticed, those stores are going to become less and less about humans interacting with humans. Now you got machines that are checking you out. You're checking yourself out. That's fine. But every stage that we bring in technology to replace a human reduces the amount of interaction between humans in our daily living experience. And what I'm finding is that we are getting more and more isolated, myself included, because it starts to feel like a lot to carry, like interacting with people every day that I feel like, hey, are you there? Hey, why are you still doing this with your kids in the sports? Like, have we not already seen what that's doing? Why are we still doing microwavable meals? Why are we buying packaged food in plastic as much as we are? Why are we still not composting our garbage when we are filling our oceans with it? You have to start taking responsibility for how you conduct your life experience, how the choices you make, but also like being really honest about what you experience from one moment to the next and not being so calculated in your response. I'm fine. Like I shared recently about someone who yelled in my face. Was that kind? No, they called that managed emotions. That was not managed emotions. That was a rage. That was someone who actually doesn't know how to manage their emotions. And the thing is, I'm aware of this with this person. They have an Aries moon. Most people who have Aries moons have a very difficult time managing their anger. They are quick to tantrum. It's the first sign of the zodiac. So that Aries energy is coming in like a child, not understanding how to regulate itself. But if you keep following the program of artificial intelligence, you are getting less and less connected to you and what you need to balance you versus you relying on a machine telling you how you should or shouldn't respond to something. It is very obvious to me, and it will be to everybody whose content is all written by AI. It is very obvious. It lacks soul. I want to live in a soulful world. A poet passed away a couple days ago, to me, very influential poet, because they really were a human that took softening seriously, softening into their humanity. They use this expression of, I want to die with like stretch marks all over my heart. And like I could cry just thinking about that. Every time I think about that human now, I'm impacted by them. I didn't know them personally, but what I knew was their authenticity and vulnerability during a, major, life chapter of disease being involved. And, being someone who is, not doesn't present, let's call it, as the way, we would as robots. But when that human was on the screen, I could feel them. I could feel what they were sharing with me, with us, in a way that you can't make up. You can't make up these moments. I'm not here performing for you. I'm actually in the experience of so grateful there's humans that have chosen softness over hardness. I'm so grateful for humans taking full responsibility for the pain of what it is to be human and the vulnerability of being human right now. I am so grateful for those that are taking our Earth and its intelligence seriously, and the beauty that comes from it, that affects us in ways we can't understand. I can sit on my porch and watch two birds come to my Ella campaign, which has only flowered for the first time this year. It's been in the ground 3 years. It took this year to flower. And this is the year then, I've seen, goldfinch, birds come in and out. We have bird feeders here as well. But, a bird feeder, which has feed in it, it's technically not a natural way to feed birds. It's a bit manipulated. But when you grow things from seeds and you put love and energy and attention into something and what it becomes and what it provides over and over and over again. I can go outside every day and have 10 minutes just sitting and looking at my garden and in awe of what it is attracting towards it. We are meant to be magnetic beings that attract our experiences to us. And yet we will continue to look at what the outside world is presenting and saying, yeah, but I need to do what everybody else is doing, or I need to follow that program, or I'll go to jail, or I need to pay those taxes, or whatever the thing is. There's all that time spent in the machine. But there will be nothing that will replace our direct relationship with nature. If you are afraid of nature, if you're afraid to walk in the woods alone, go. Get connected. Start opening up these fields, our abilities to receive information that you cannot see, that will not be written down, that will not be force-fed to you. We create the new world from allowing ourselves to be connected naturally. Will artificial intelligence support us in ways? Of course. But I don't want to go to the airport and just deal with machines and then have my thing not go through and then I miss my flight because there's no humans. I don't want to be out on the street and have a fall and no one comes out because they've gotten so used to just dealing with themselves and not wanting to interact with that human. Humanity is part ugly. And I don't mean that like that's a bad thing. I mean it's hard to look at. Some things are hard to look at. Some things are hard to be with. Some things are hard to see. But to turn away from it is to turn away from yourself and to humanity and to this natural earth. It's hard to watch a tiger take down a deer and eat it in front of us. But it's also one of the most amazing moments of that deer's life where it is giving itself to something else. And we're losing that capacity to remember our role within the whole. What is your role within the whole? I promise you, you fulfilling your role within the whole will be the most wholesome, fulfilling way of living you can imagine. Not without pain, not without joy. You're going to have it all in the human experience because that's what we are. We are sensory beings. And we have not even come close to understanding the intelligence that we came to this world with and utilizing it and accessing it on a regular basis to then create this next world. There are parts of being human that we are going to miss. We already do. I hate texting. I used to love it because I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I need a lot of alone time. And, one of the things that's been very difficult for me is I'm being challenged to keep coming on to mediums like this or creating different platforms where, I can share perspective. But I cannot, unfortunately, respond to every single person that emails me and messages me. It simply will take me away from me. And that's hard for me to accept because I don't want anyone to think that whatever I've said and how it's impacted them doesn't mean something to me. It does. But the amount of emails I get a day, the amount of, I have, clients and I have, I put stuff up here because I want to be of service to this world. And one of the hardest parts about being of service to this world is trying to figure out how to make it fit into the, capitalistic paradigm. And I'm loosening the grip on that day by day, and choosing the risk of just being a natural human that is not going to just say yes to everything that is presented to me as if it's right for me. It's not. And it's a really good idea right now in these 4 months to take a look at what is going on up here in the brain. Are you having less ability to focus? Do you have less patience? Are you not taking any steps forward with your creative work because you can't see it? You can't see the end result or you don't know where it's going to take you? That's the point. And that is the thing that even myself, I get caught up in consistently. Oh, well, I can't do that until I get this thing done, or I can't do that till this thing happens. And yes, that's true, because sometimes we actually just need to take things off our plate so that we can fully focus on something. So it means there's going to be different moments in our life where we're going to have to put a lot on hold and just focus on this or that. Biohacking has no place inside of places where we are mourning. Or we are, experiencing, tragedies in different ways. Like food is here to work with us. This stuff that comes out of the earth, it is there to help soothe us. But if we have too much of it, if we get addicted to it and we don't slow down to actually take it in, we become robotic. We become just addicts. Just give me more, consume, 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 consume. It's been really hard for me to watch so much of this affect so many of my relationships. And the hardest part for me is I have to, because of my commitment to my own mission here on the planet and, and still being human, is that I can't spend too much time anymore having to defend myself. There's nothing to defend. I'm really coming from love. And love is hard for people. Love is really hard for people who are still divided inside. And so I have to keep doing that work and be as diligent with it. And when I say work, I don't mean because it's, but it is an exercise every day to just keep showing up to life. I'd be lying if I didn't say this past week I haven't had all kinds of thoughts. I would be lying if I, didn't want to just get in a car and leave or get on a plane and go elsewhere. And yet my conditions in my life right now are not going to let me do that. And I could be mad at those conditions, or I could trust these conditions are here for me to keep moving through things within myself, to keep freeing myself up, to know myself better. The better I know myself, the better I can navigate this world. And you know what else that I've been learning? Is that I can speak a lot less about the medicine I provide and instead just show up and be it. And in just being it, I exert so much less energy and I get so much more feedback. But when I try to, if I'm not asked or invited into someone's life and I interfere or I step in, again, this is very particular to being a projector. So if you don't know if you're a projector, please find out. Because we do have a very particular role on the planet right now. And we also are going to be given lots of conditions we're going to need to work with that are going to be difficult. Just as any other type would. They're all different. Like I said, we're all different. We're going to be challenged by certain things. Like just because an Aries moon has a hard time controlling their temper doesn't mean we should just allow them to get be abusive. No. What we need to do is support that human to say, hey, when are you going to start dealing with that emotional part of yourself rather than continuing to work on the cerebral part, or the collecting all this data from AI, or gurus. You are your own guru. I'm here to guide. I'm not here to be a guru. If anybody called me a guru, I would be really... It's why I am probably also going to always stop and start with different things, because I don't want anyone putting me into some role that takes the responsibility of your life from you. I'm not here to tell you the answers. I'm here to offer space, perspective, and possibilities. And I invite you to start stepping into that and look at all the behaviors you engage with on a daily basis and ask yourself, is this thing I'm doing really mostly for profit or is it for people? Because there's a lot that I can see, like artificial food, that is not for people. It's making people very sick. Putting botulism in our faces is not for people. We haven't seen what that's going to do to all kinds of things. We are definitely seeing what's starting to happen in relationship to people who do not have expression on their face anymore. It's not going to make you any more accepted by others or even yourself. And I understand there's things that surgeries make sense. Like if, we've had babies and we've lost tons of weight, and working really hard, and there's a lot of extra skin, and it's extremely uncomfortable, and it's causing infection. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But if the only reason we are doing something is to freeze ourselves in place, then you should be prepared to freeze yourself in place and not evolve in the same ways that you could by engaging with everything that is naturally coming towards you. Everybody wants this world to slow down. They want more time. And yet what they will do is continue to engage in everything that makes life more convenient. Some of people's most best days are doing the most mundane activities, and it's the interactions with the people they come across that they magnetize towards them when you're fully in yourself. And as I said, or starting to say, that one of the things I started hearing from people more recently is that they feel healed by my presence. And I had a hard time accepting that as a response from somebody that specifically, there's been a few people in the last 2 months that have said, I don't know what it was, but when you were there, I wasn't experiencing any of these symptoms. I wasn't experiencing any, because part of what I'm there who I am is to be one with you, and in being one with you, you become one. And when you are not separated and fragmented, and you're whole, you're well. When we believe there is something wrong with us, we're not whole. We can have issues, we can have imbalances, but the belief that there is something wrong with us is a part of us dividing from ourselves, and it just goes into smaller and smaller fragments that I believe are going to start breaking up our ability to understand who we even are anymore. This is delicate territory. So I'm asking everyone to be really, really diligent in their choice making, in the thoughts that they think, in the words that they speak. And, there's going to be hard parts about that, to have people who, who basically said, I'm out of my life. There's quite a few people who have just decided they're done with me. Does that feel good? No. Does not feel good. However, I trust. I trust that there's something bigger I can't understand, but I have to allow myself the humane experience to be upset, to be sad, to grieve those relationships, and not just grieve the relationships, but the possibilities that I thought were there between me and another. And when, they treat you very transactionally and, here's your items, where do you want me to drop them? I know there's a lack of heart there, and it actually only makes me feel more for the other person, which is why I have to leave it with them, because I have to still tend to my own protection of self and staying aligned with my mission, which is to be love wherever I possibly can be. Will I fail? Yes, but it is my commitment. And, in that case of this person didn't even like using the word love, doesn't like using the word love. And so that should have been my first red flag. But I love humans, even when they drive me nuts. They really, because I just think we're such creative beings, and I learn so much from just being with certain people and spending time with them and what I walk away with. And, as much as I don't like being kind of tossed or not considered, I know I'm going to consider myself first. So I'll take care of myself, and I'll just trust and hope that these other people are doing the same for themselves. That's what I got today. I hope this makes sense. I know it's a lot. It's a very hard conversation to have in concise language, because a lot of it is around articulating different examples and different moments and different ways that this is showing up for us right now. So if you want, I'd love for you to leave some comments about anything that you have been picking up for yourself during this time around this conversation, and natural and artificial, and what have you been learning? And please, by all means, if you've been like full in the artificial world, I don't judge you. You're helping. I trust the experiment of being human, no differently than when we have the option to take a, injection or not. I appreciate the experiment of some doing that and some not. We cannot learn without both sides. That's essentially what the scientific method is about. It's not about everybody has to go one way. Everybody goes one way, we're going to be very limited. We'll have a very limited living experience. So Let's open it up, shall we? All right, lots of love. Lots of luck to you in this process. It's not easy. If you want a reading, be in touch. I'm happy to help.